here's the thing. I can fool a bunch of you by using a bunch of like very powerful language, like here, and be like, oh yeah, you just gotta loop it. It's like an onion, bro. Yeah, you know ogres, like you. What's that mean? Our brains are so good at tricking us into thinking things make sense. It's half the reason people show up to these talks. Like, it's when you try to break it down to numbers, it gets really messy really quickly. And so for that, well, let's actually see what it looks like. Because here's the thing: game designers have loops. Players, they just have play sessions. They just have the experience they had. It's a linear thing. They aren't looping. They aren't going back and forth. At any one moment, they're experiencing something, and they're thinking about something else. They're seeing what's ahead down the road. Like, they travel down the path, they see, oh, a bench is up there. I guess, like a park bench in the second context. But, like, they see goals ahead, hopefully. Like, in fact, you could think of this as like a path up a mountain. They see the peak, and they want to get to that peak. And they see little obstacles ahead, and they work towards those. And because of that, you have a visual navigation of your part and location in your journey. And that is what the player experiences. And if they can't see too far, if your path's too windy, they might not be able to see those long-term goals. So yeah, that's each one of these players has their own unique experiences with little differences. For example, with this one, this person got some wood from a tree, made a bench, then went back and mined 2 more trees for a pickaxe. I don't remember if that's the exact amount of trees you needed for any of these recipes, but you know. From there, you have tree mining. So you have you can have the person who just starts. Maybe they spawn in a forest. They just mine a bunch of trees, and I guess see a tree at the end. I think I messed that part up, but you know. Oh no, they see a tree, and I guess maybe they build their bench near a tree and then mine that tree immediately after. Maybe they forget that they need one more tree. Point is, they do the same amount of work at the end of it, except for this guy. I won't get to them. But it's in different order, so you can't track this. Like, even though it is a map, even though it is a path, it's a path which is different for every user in some way. And because of that, well, yeah, so we have the exact same thing here, except then at the last second, they say, joke's on you, I'm not going to get a pickaxe. I'm going to get a regular axe to mine more wood. And it branches again. And that's the key, it's branching. And so you can simplify it a bit as a game designer. You can combine those experiences. You can make some shorthands. You can say, okay, we're just going to assume that everyone's doing the same thing, and when they aren't doing the same thing, we're going to split from there. And you can do that a few times, and it helps. But then you kind of have the issue where what happens if this person mines more, like this person mines 2 trees, whereas this person only mines 1. Like, it's different. They're now in a different situation. They're in a different path, even though technically it might not even matter that much. It might just be something small and unnecessary. Like, imagine you're tracking a literal player path. If they go left around a tree or right around a tree, it probably won't matter that much. And so these smaller things that don't matter, such as the specific process of them finding and mining trees, you can reduce those. And you can reduce those, like for example in this one, we literally just assume whenever they mine a tree, they have in fact found a tree. And if no one's mining trees, that means no one is finding trees. Or something's going wrong there. So unless you have reason to believe people are failing to do something, don't explicitly track it. It'll make your life so much easier. Like, if you really want to be careful, track it. But like, also, not everyone has infinite data storage, and you can only send so many events at once through HTTP service. So yeah, don't track tiny things that don't matter. Like, if it's not, if this goal is pretty established, yeah, no, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm so very happy to finally be able to share all this with people. But yeah, no, it's so you have these different tracks, and by removing the unnecessary stuff, you just get the goals. But then you still have the duplication issue, where and to fix that, we do the opposite of duplication, deduplication. And deduplication, a bit of a wonky term, I guess. Basically, instead of having these two events twice in a row, you have these two events and include in properties of the event the average amount of duplications. And then you can later on filter various level of duplications. Like if a person mines 3 trees in a row, how does that impact whether they make a regular axe or a pickaxe? Like it's a we're gonna be talking about in a bit something called states, but the duplication is a variable added to the event's state, or I guess the player state. And yeah, so we can then deduplicate it. And from there, you may realize, the astute among you, that path is the same path now. These, up to this point, it's the same. So we can actually merge it into a very simple flow, which here ended up being people, for some reason, mining a tree after they made a bench. I really think I messed up some of the labeling at some point. I think it's because I did this earlier. No, but more or less, like, that's the thing. I messed up as the developer. But through reducing things and through analytics and like solving for it, you can actually kind of see that. Like, this is so meta. I literally messed this part up, and I'm able to see that because of this exact system. This kind of stuff's great. It's super helpful for narrowing stuff down and figuring out when something makes sense and when it doesn't. Like, if you were to see, for example, that people were just starting with going directly to pickaxe and never mining, then you either have a bug or there's just like a lot of wood lying around them or something. Because you can find those weird instances. You can even detect hackers. Like a person who spawns with a pickaxe, that's a hacker. But don't like auto ban anyone who spawns with pickaxe. Check for bugs first. A colleague of mine once, it was one of the funnier moments I've ever streamed. A colleague of mine tried to stop hackers by banning people who got a sudden increase in cash in their game, except they didn't filter out those who had just bought the most expensive developer product. So on the stream, one of the people on it with me bought their most expensive product to support them because they thought it was a good game, and were banned for hacking instantly. Oh, it was great. No, yeah, check that stuff. Check that stuff with a fine-tooth comb, especially when you're paying players. I cannot think of a worse business decision than to perma-ban your most dedicated players. Oh my goodness. It's hilarious. Okay. You're in the audience, I'm so sorry. It's the best story. Anyway. This is simplification. See these player paths? You can now reduce this to this. And really, in all honesty, like in real life, you will have tens of thousands of players, and you will have every one of these could branch into 5 or so different things. Like you could branch out to a dozen things from any moment. So we need to find a way to automate it. And to automate it, let's abstract a little bit more. So we have this.